This search for meaning has taken him through so many different places and opportunities. The jet engines, the maxi pads, the jungles, the classrooms to the jungles of Guatemala and street kids in Mexico City. And after all of these, has he been able to solve the eternal mystery? So please join me in welcoming Sebastian Acosta for The Meaning of Life. The Meaning of Life, Sebastian Acosta.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guest. The meaning of life in 5 to 7 minutes. I mean, I put myself in a tough spot here because, well, if I get to really discover here with you the meaning of life, what could I possibly do for my third speech? I mean, this would be the end of my Toastmaster career. And then if I don't do a good job on this speech, well, I did a good job on my first speech, and I want to do better now, but if I don't do it, it becomes like failure. So it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. But the show must go on. Now, full disclosure here, the material I'm going to present to you today belongs to, I borrowed it from Brett Gaida. This is a friend of mine who's just started a podcast called Where There's Smoke. And I left a little paper on your sheets. If you like the material that I'm sharing with you today, I encourage you to go to www.wherethere'ssmoke.co, listen to some of his podcasts, and perhaps subscribe, because he's done some really insightful things, particularly this one on the meaning of life. Okay, so, the meaning of life. Have you asked yourself this question? I certainly have, and it doesn't need a lot of introduction. So, let me share with you what other people have thought about this. Let's start with a movie, which is called The Meaning of Life. This is a movie by Monty Python. Anybody familiar with Monty Python? Great. So, you know that in this movie, there was a line there that says, we've been working on this with a number of experts for a long time, and we've distilled the meaning of life down to 2 main fundamental concepts. Number 1, people are not wearing enough hats. Number 2, matter is energy. I felt a little unsatisfied with this answer, so we continue our search for this. And Hitchhiker, Guide of the Galaxy, Deep Thought, the second most powerful computer in the universe, after 7.5 million years of computation, came up with the right answer. People gathered from all over the universe to hear what they had to say. And it said, the answer to life's ultimate question about life, the universe, and everything is 42. 42? It turns out that even the correct answer, if we don't have the right question, is not that useful to us. Which brings an interesting point. Are we asking the right question? What is the meaning of life? What about, why are we asking the question? Or even, when are we asking the question? I bet that if you actually have asked yourself this question, it wasn't on the time when you were like totally engaged with your work, or surrounded by great human connections. It was probably the opposite. Also, most people, when they ask, what is the meaning of life, that's not really what they're asking. They're asking, what is the meaning of my life? Not what is the purpose of existence, but what is the purpose of my existence? Neil deGrasse Tyson, in an interview, he was asked this question, what is the meaning of life? He said, it turns out that most people assume that the meaning of life is something that is hidden and they need to uncover or find. And they never consider the possibility that meaning of life can be created. Something they create for yourself and for others around you. Now, if that's true, that is pretty cool, because that means that we can manage it or control it. If you think back to the times when you've been most productive or most impactful to people around you, you realize that you have these things. A sense of purpose, a sense of fulfillment, and a feeling of happiness. I dare to say that if you ever kind of sad or depressed, you weren't able to impact people in a positive way very much. So actually, being able to manage this state, it would be priceless. Here are 3 things that we can actually share with you, that not my ideas, but some other smarter people have come up with to manage this state. Number one, this Neil deGrasse Tyson, he talked about knowledge. He said, if I go to sleep knowing that I learned something that day, I go to sleep happy. If I don't, I feel like I wasted my day. Number two, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins said, progress equals happiness. It doesn't matter where you are, if you're at the bottom or if you're at the top. If you're getting better, you be happy with yourself. Number three, Jason Silva. He said, happiness exists in the space of the new. Novelty is what really engages our brains fully. And we need that engagement in order to be more fulfilled. I'm sure it happened to you that life takes you up, takes you down, and in those down times you're there wondering, I don't know what the meaning of life really is, but I'm sure that this is not it. What if this is not it, is actually it? Let me say that again. This is not it, is actually it. Have you heard about the pursuit of happiness? What about the happiness of the pursuit? If you talk to people that have achieved lots of things, climbed the tallest mountains, sold like billion-dollar companies, and you ask them, where were you the happiest at? It wasn't when they were pursuing their works. It was still while they were climbing. Brett concludes his podcast in the following manner. He says, the meaning of life is not an answer. It actually lies in the questions. It's an evergreen exploration of the world that surrounds us and within us. And what I talked before about knowledge, progress, and novelty are the tactics that we have to go with it. This isn't it, it's actually it. We don't have an answer to look for. We have moments to create, experiences to share with others, and questions to revel in. Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, the meaning of life, maybe it's time that we stop asking that question about the meaning of life and we start creating and putting more meaning in